Okay, so just for a second, if I asked you to picture the word trauma, what's the image that immediately jumps into your head?
I'm guessing for what, 90% of people, it's a car crash.
Yeah, a car crash.
Or a war zone, something, loud and sudden,
Right.
a bad event.
Exactly. We picture the event, the bad thing that happened. It's like this one photo in an album you just wish you could forget.
Right.
But I was going through the source for today's deep dive, and I was just stopped cold by this idea that completely flips that on its head. It suggests we've been looking at the wrong thing entirely.
It's a massive paradigm shift. We're
Yeah.
so focused on the what happened, but this text forces us to look at the what's happening now.
And the argument is basically this. Trauma isn't the event itself. Trauma is what happens inside your body after the event is over. It is, and I'm quoting our source here, unfinished survival.
That phrase, that right there, unfinished survival, that's the anchor for everything we're going to talk about.
It's powerful.
We are diving deep into an essay called Trauma is Unfinished Survival by the philosopher Pedro Malha. And honestly, this isn't just a psychology deep dive. This feels more like biology.
Or physics, even. It's about energy.
It is. It's about why you might feel totally exhausted after 10 hours of sleep, or why you might just freeze up when someone asks you a simple question.
Yeah.
So Malha's mission in this essay, and really our mission today, is to move the conversation from what's wrong with me to what is my body trying to solve?
Not like that.
We're going to unpack that biological intelligence, why we get stuck, and the big question, how do you actually finish that business to reclaim your life?
So let's get into the mechanics, because Malha uses this metaphor that I found. Well, it's a little abstract at first, but it's really helpful. He talks about light and dark.
Right, and just to be super clear for you listening, he's not talking about good versus evil here.
No, not at all.
It's about energy states in the nervous system. So think of light as mobilization. It's the go signal. Exactly, the evolutionary response. You see a tiger, your body lights up, muscles tighten, heart rate spikes, all that energy
A
gathered.
body revving the engine ready to go.
Right. It's a surge of power designed for one of two things: fight or flee. That's the light. That's hot, fast, active.
Okay, so that's standard fight or flight. Most of us get that. But here is where the essay gets really interesting. Malha asks, what happens when you can't fight and you physically cannot flee?
And that is the critical juncture. This is where you have to look at childhood, mostly.
Because a kid can't just leave.
A child in a volatile home, they're too small to fight an adult, and they literally can't pack a bag and walk out the door. So that light strategy, mobilization, has failed. The engine is redlining, but the car is completely boxed in.
That sounds biologically dangerous.
It is. All that high voltage energy trapped in the body is toxic. It's just too much. So the nervous system does something brilliant. It shifts
It shifts from light,
to dark.
and dark here means, what, like depression?
Not exactly. Dark is conservation. If movement is impossible, the only option left is to disconnect, to go still, to numb out.
Okay, can you give me a metaphor? Because going dark sounds poetic, but what is physically happening?
Think of it like a circuit breaker in your house. There's a massive power surge, too much light, and to stop the whole house from burning down, the breaker trips.
And the power goes out.
The lights go out, the hum of the fridge stops, everything goes silent and still. That is the dark state. You disappear, effectively, to save the system from overload.
Malha writes, the body realizes there is no way out, so it finds another way to survive. And that's actually incredibly compassionate. We usually beat ourselves up for shutting down.
But he's saying it's a mechanism, it's a brilliant adaptation, and this is so important, that shutdown wasn't a failure, it was a success, it kept you alive.
But there's always a but.
The but is that the body is really, really bad at telling time.
The danger passes. The parent leaves the room, or you grow up and move out. You're safe now, technically. But the body never got the memo.
Exactly. Malha says, the difficulty begins when dark becomes permanent. The circuit breaker never gets flipped back on. So you're walking around in the present day, but your nervous system is still crouched in the dark, conserving energy, waiting for a blow that just isn't coming anymore.
And this explains a distinction he makes that clicked for me. He says trauma lives in sensation, not in memory. I think we all assume it's about replaying the movie of the bad thing in your head.
And for some people, it is. But for many, especially with this dark state trauma, there's no movie. Sometimes there's not even a clear memory. There's just a feeling or the lack of a feeling.
He lists some of the physical signs, and there are things I think we just write off as being a tired adult.
Like exhaustion.
Yeah, exhaustion that rest does not resolve. That one hit me hard. You sleep for 10 hours and wake up feeling like you've run a marathon. Why is that?
Well, it makes perfect sense if you think about the energy bill. Your body is running a high-performance background program called Don't Die. That takes up immense resources. You're driving with the emergency brake pulled all the way up.
So you sleep, but you never recharge.
Because the engine never actually turns off.
And he also talks about breath, the breath that rarely reaches your belly.
Classic freeze response. If you're hiding from a predator, you don't take big, deep breaths. You sip air, just enough to stay alive, but not enough to expand and be seen.
Right, because taking up space is dangerous.
It's an unconscious strategy of invisibility. But you do that for 20 years, you end up with a system that's constantly rigid and starved for oxygen.
The tragedy here, as Mala points out, is that we see these things being jumpy, being tired, and we pathologize them. We say, oh, I'm just an anxious person.
We make it about our identity, a character flaw, but Malha is basically screaming in this essay, no, these are not personality traits, these are physiological states. Your nervous system is just organized around a threat that's no longer there.
So let's talk about that organization, because that has to shape the person you become. Mala uses this term I really like, the survival self.
The survival self is the manager.
The manager, okay, but not a fun manager.
No, this is a micromanager who's convinced the building is always about to catch fire. The survival self is the version of you that developed to navigate the danger. And it has very specific habits, like scanning.
Scanning rooms without even realizing you're doing it. I do this. I always need to know where the exit is. I hate sitting with my back to the door.
That's the survival self at work. Hypervigilance. You aren't just eating dinner, you're assessing the perimeter. Another one is bracing.
Bracing. What does that look like?
Well, check your body right now. Are your shoulders up by your ears? Is your jaw tight? That's bracing. It's preemptive. You're not responding to what's happening now. You're preparing for the impact of what might happen.
And then there's the opposite of bracing, which is disappearing. Mala talks about dissociating when things get too intense. And he says this happens even when the intensity is good.
That's the cruel irony of it. To a nervous system stuck in survival mode, intensity is danger. It doesn't really distinguish between I'm terrified and I'm incredibly joyful.
Both are a huge surge of sensation.
Right. Both look like light. So the survival self says, whoa, too much voltage, pull the plug, and you float away.
And the common advice is always, just be your authentic self. But Mala's approach is much more gentle. He says we shouldn't hate the survival self.
We can't. It saved our lives. If you try to just rip off that mask without building safety first, you're leaving yourself totally defenseless. He talks about a quiet sorrow that comes when you realize how much of your life has been run by this manager.
The quiet sorrow. That's grieving the cost, isn't it?
It's grief for the years spent managing instead of living. But there's a really hopeful note in there, too. He talks about a quiet center.
Wait, unpack that. If I'm frozen or panicking, where is this center?
It's the part of you that notices the panic. Even when you were freezing, there was a part of you that was watching. A witness.
A witness.
Exactly. A spark of awareness that never got damaged. It got buried, sure, but it never vanished. The fact that you can observe yourself, that you can say, wow, I'm bracing right now, that proves the quiet center is still there.
That's a really grounding thought. But this survival self, it doesn't just affect us when we're alone. It wreaks havoc on relationships.
It does, because, as Mala points out, our nervous systems learn about safety through other people.
But he writes, connection is not neutral.
And this is huge for anyone who loves a survivor or is one. We think a hug is always good. But if your early injuries happened inside relationships, if the people who were supposed to protect you were the ones who hurt you, your body learned a rule.
Intimacy is dangerous.
So deep eye contact or a warm embrace that can trigger the same shutdown. Malha calls it internal disappearance. You're smiling, you're nodding, but the lights are on and nobody's home.
I've felt that. It's like being behind a pane of glass.
Yeah.
And from the outside, it probably looks like, I don't care.
But from the inside, it's protection. It's the body choosing numbness over the risk of feeling too much.
Which leads us to the section on shame, because when we freeze, society judges. Why didn't you fight back? Why did you stay so long?
And survivors ask themselves that constantly. Why did I just stand there?
Malha is so firm on this. I want to read this quote. Freeze is not consent. Silence is not agreement.
We have to get the biology here. When a threat is that overwhelming, the part of your brain that makes choices, the prefrontal cortex, it just goes offline. You don't decide to freeze. Your biological intelligence decides for you.
So the shame is...
Yeah.
It's misplaced.
Completely. It's like blaming yourself for sneezing. You end up with this double burden. the trauma and then the shame of your own survival mechanism.
So if trauma is unfinished survival, if it's all this trapped energy, how do we fix it? How do we turn the lights back on?
That's the work. And repair isn't about erasing the past. Malha says it's about letting the body finish what it could not finish before.
Which means dealing with that trapped light energy.
Exactly. The adrenaline that wanted to run, it's still stored in the muscles, so repair is often physical. It's about discharge.
And this is where it might get a little weird for people. He talks about shaking.
Yeah, trembling. It's primal. Watch a gazelle escape a lion. Once it's safe, the gazelle will literally shake uncontrollably for a few minutes. It's vibrating the stress energy out of its system. Then it goes back to grazing.
But humans, we hold it together.
Yeah.
We think shaking is weakness.
We suppress it, so we bottle up all that energy. Malha suggests that real repair often involves letting that trembling happen, or crying tears that seem to come from nowhere. It's the body finally completing the cycle.
And the result of that completion.
He says it's fatigue that finally becomes real rest. Imagine finally sleeping because the Don't Die program stopped running in the background.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But he also warns this isn't a smooth process.
No, it's the messy middle. When you start to thaw out, you start to feel everything again. He gives the example of just ordinary life, like a supermarket.
Right. Ordinary places suddenly feel dangerous.
Because you're coming back online, you're in a checkout line, and suddenly your heart is racing. The old instinct is to judge that. What's wrong with me? It's just groceries.
But the shift is to just notice it.
Without
the judgment.
Exactly. To notice, oh, I'm bracing right now, and then just choose to slow down. He has this lovely line, repair is a breath that deepens without effort. It's creating just enough safety for the breath to drop on its own.
So the goal isn't to never get triggered again.
That's impossible. We're human. The goal is recovery time. How quickly can you come back to yourself? Can you feel the trigger, wobble a bit, and then right the ship?
Instead of being derailed for a week, maybe it's an hour.
Or 5 minutes. That's resilience.
Yeah.
And it's about inhabiting your life again. He uses the word embodiment.
Which is a bit of a buzzword, but in this context, it feels very grounded.
Here, it just means being at home in your own skin. It means you can feel your feet on the floor, and you're not just watching it happen from a distance. You are actually in the experience.
He ends the essay saying, repair allows you to include more of yourself. You can carry what happened, but you can also experience joy. It's not an either-or anymore.
That's the victory. Trauma narrows your world to a pinhole. Repair widens the aperture. He writes, the past does not stop being true, but it stops filling every moment.
Wow. The past does not stop being true, but it stops filling every moment. That's such a hopeful place to land.
It really is.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one last thought. We've spent this time talking about the survival self, that anxious manager who braces and scans and numbs out.
The part we usually try to fight or fix.
Exactly. We try to fire the manager. But what if Malha is right? What if that self is just biological intelligence using an outdated map to save your life? What might happen if you changed your approach?
Instead of fighting it, you thank it.
It sounds so counterintuitive. But next time you feel that tightness in your chest or that urge to check out, what if you just took a beat, acknowledged that part of you, and said, I know you're trying to protect me, thank you, but look around. We're safe now.
Shifting from a battle to gratitude. That might be the very thing that finally convinces the body it's safe enough to put down the shield.
Thank you for diving deep with us today. Take care of your nervous systems, everyone.
See you next time.